My name is Natalie Brooks. I was 31 when I finally learned that sometimes the person you love does not need to cheat loudly to betray you. Sometimes they do it softly, politely, with little smiles and familiar excuses. Until one day you realize you have been standing outside your own relationship, knocking on the door like a stranger. Zach Miller and I had been together for 3 years. For the first 2.5, I would have told anyone we were solid. Not perfect. No couple is. But steady. We had our routines. Our favorite Thai place on Friday nights. Our shared grocery list. Our habit of arguing over which movie to watch, and then falling asleep before either of us won. He was 29. Charming, in a careless sort of way. The kind of man people liked immediately. He remembered birthdays, knew how to talk to waiters, and could make my mother laugh within 5 minutes. I loved that about him. I also loved the quieter things, the way he rubbed his thumb over my knuckles when he was nervous. The way he left coffee beside my laptop when I worked late. The way he once drove 40 minutes in the rain because I said I wanted soup but did not want to leave the apartment. Back then, I thought love meant choosing someone over and over. I did not realize I was the only one doing the choosing. Everything changed when his ex-girlfriend, Emma, moved back to town 6 months ago. At first, it sounded harmless. She reached out. Zach told me one night, while scrolling through his phone on the couch. She's back from Portland. Wants to grab coffee sometime. I looked up from my laptop. Emma. As in, your Emma. He laughed like I had said something silly. She's not my Emma. We dated for 2 months 5 years ago. 2 months. 5 years ago. That became the little phrase he used, like a key, unlocking every locked door in my doubt. I tried to be reasonable. I really did. I told myself adults could be friends with exes. I told myself insecurity was ugly. I told myself trust was not trust if it had to be comfortable all the time. So when coffee became lunch, I said nothing. When lunch became Saturday book club, I smiled and asked what they were reading. When book club became just us because the others canceled, I swallowed the stone in my throat and said, have fun. The thing was, Zach had never cared about books. In 3 years, I had seen him finish exactly 1 novel. And that was because we were trapped at an airport during a delay. Suddenly, every Saturday, he had literary opinions and plans with Emma. Then Sunday coffee got added. Then Friday game nights. Then the explanation changed. Emma was lonely. Emma was adjusting. Emma was stressed about her mother's health. Emma needed someone who knew her from before. And I was supposed to understand. I did understand. At first. Then I started noticing things I wished I had not noticed. The cologne he only wore on special dates. The new shirts. The way he turned his phone face down. The little smile he got when her name appeared on the screen. The worst part was that he became kinder right before leaving. That was the detail that haunted me later. He would kiss my forehead. Tell me not to wait up. Promise we would do something just us soon. Soon kept moving farther away. At the same time, I had a decision pressing down on me from the other side of my life. My company had offered me a promotion to lead our Singapore office. Director role. 140,000 a year. Full relocation package. A 2-bedroom apartment, covered for the first year. It was the kind of job I had dreamed about when I was 22, and eating instant noodles while applying to entry-level positions at midnight. And I had turned it down twice. Not because I did not want it, because Zach said he could not imagine leaving his family, his friends, his life here. Because he said long distance would destroy us. Because he held my hand and told me, maybe one day. Not. Just not now. So I stayed. I stayed while he spent entire weekends with the woman he used to date. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning. I remember the light in the apartment was too bright. Sharp across the kitchen floor. Zach stood near the mirror by the door, fixing his hair like he was going to a wedding instead of a casual book club. He wore the dark green shirt I once told him. Made his eyes look softer. He had shaved. He had sprayed the expensive cologne I bought him for our anniversary. The one he always claimed was too nice for normal days. I was sitting at the kitchen island with untouched coffee, cooling between my hands. You sure you don't want to skip today? I asked. My voice came out quieter than I intended. We could try that new ramen place. You said you wanted to. He did not even look at me at first. He checked his watch. Natalie. We've been over this. The way he said my name made me feel like a child interrupting grown-up plans. I know. I said, I'm just asking for one weekend. He sighed. Long and theatrical. Emma's going through a lot. So Annie. That made him look up. For a second. Something flickered across his face. Guilt. Maybe. Irritation. Definitely, don't do that. He said. Do what? Make this into a competition. I stared at him. I'm not competing with her. Zach. That's the problem. I'm your girlfriend. I should not have to compete. He grabbed his keys from the bowl by the door. She's just a friend now. I don't know how many times I have to say it. We dated for, 2 months 5 years ago. You're being paranoid. There it was again. Paranoid. That word had become the blanket he threw over every uncomfortable truth. I stood up. Then stay today. His jaw tightened. No. One word. Clean. Immediate. The apartment went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I nodded slowly. Because something inside me had gone still. Not calm. Not peaceful. Just still. The way the air gets before glass breaks. He softened his tone. Like he was doing me a favor. Look. If you can't handle me spending weekends with my ex, maybe we're not right for each other. I looked at him for a long moment, then I said, You're spot on. His face changed. Confusion first. Then shock. Then panic trying to disguise itself as anger. What? You're right. I said. This isn't working. Natalie. I didn't mean. Yes. You did. I walked past him toward the bedroom. You said exactly what you meant. You just didn't expect me to agree. He followed me. Where are you going? To email my boss. For what? I opened my laptop with hands that were not shaking nearly as much as they should have been. I'm accepting Singapore. He stared at me from the doorway. Are you serious? I typed the first line. I've reconsidered, and would be honored to accept the Singapore director role if still available. Natalie. Stop. I did not stop. I'm frustrated. He said. People say things when they're frustrated. I hit send. Then I looked at him. You should probably stay at your parents' tonight. I said. Or Emma's. Up to you. His mouth opened slightly. Are you seriously dumping me over this? You told me we shouldn't be together. I didn't mean literally. Then don't make ultimatums. You don't mean... His eyes filled. But they were not sad tears. They were furious ones. The kind people cry when the script they wrote for you suddenly changes. You're being absurd. He snapped. It's friendship. Then, go be friends. You'll regret this. Maybe he expected me to collapse. Maybe he expected me to beg. Maybe the cruelest thing I did in that moment was remain calm. He grabbed his bag and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. 20 minutes later, my phone lit up. Baba. Let's talk. Then. You can't throw away 3 years like this. Then. I'll stop seeing Emma if it bothers you. Then. Natalie. This is childish. I read every message. I answered none. Instead, I pulled my suitcase from the closet and began packing. Not everything. Just enough to remind myself I was capable of leaving. The first thing I learned after ending a 3-year relationship was that people become very honest when they think you've already lost. The second thing I learned was that some people only value you once you stop making their lives convenient. The week after Zach stormed out of my apartment felt surreal. Every morning I woke up expecting to hear the shower running, or find him stealing my coffee. Every evening I caught myself reaching for my phone to send him a meme, or tell him something funny that happened at work. Then I would remember, he was probably with Emma, and somehow that thought hurt less than it should have, because the deeper pain wasn't losing him. It was realizing how long I had been losing him already. 3 days after the breakup, my company officially confirmed my transfer. Singapore. 2 weeks. Everything moved fast after that. The company arranged movers. Human resources scheduled relocation meetings. My future apartment was selected. Flights were booked. Every item on my checklist felt like another door opening. For the first time in months, I felt excited. Not about escaping Zach. About reclaiming myself. Of course. Zach didn't see it that way. According to social media, he was the victim of a shocking emotional breakdown. I discovered that on Wednesday night, a friend sent me a screenshot. There was Zach, sitting on Emma's couch, holding a coffee mug. Emma's legs were visible in the corner of the photo. The caption read, "Sometimes, life throws unexpected curveballs at 2 a.m. Grateful for the people who are there when everything falls apart." I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was so unbelievably predictable. 3 years together, 3 days apart, and somehow the first place he ran was Emma's apartment. The woman I had supposedly imagined as a threat. The woman who was just a friend. A few hours later, my phone buzzed. It was Tara, one of Emma's friends. She and I had never been particularly close, but we'd always gotten along. "Natalie, did you and Zach really break up?" "Yep." The typing bubble appeared instantly. "Oh my god. What?" "Emma told everyone you were having some kind of crisis." I nearly dropped my phone. "Crises. She said you're throwing your life away and moving across the world because you're afraid of commitment." I stared at the message. Then, I laughed again. A harder laugh this time. "What commitment?" "Exactly." Another message arrived. "She also told everyone you'd never actually leave." That caught my attention. "What do you mean?" "She said you're too attached to your older sister. That you'd never move overseas because you need your family nearby." I blinked. My sister lived in California. I saw her once a year, sometimes less. I took a screenshot and saved it. Not because I planned to use it, because I was beginning to realize Zach and Emma had been creating an entirely different version of me, one where I existed only as an obstacle to their story. Meanwhile, I was busy, dismantling my old life, packing books, selling furniture, canceling subscriptions, sorting documents. Every task felt strangely therapeutic, like clearing debris after a storm. Then Zach showed up. It happened Saturday morning. I was wrapping dishes in newspaper when someone started pounding on my apartment door. "Natalie." I froze. "Natalie. I know you're in there." Of course he knew. My car was outside. I walked to the door but didn't open it. "What do you want?" "We need to talk." His voice sounded frustrated. Not remorseful. Not heartbroken. Frustrated. Like I was making his life difficult. I pulled out my phone and texted him instead. "Your things are boxed beside the door." A pause. Then my phone rang. I declined it. Immediately, another text appeared. "I'm not taking them." I replied. "You should." "I'm not leaving." I leaned my head against the wall and actually smiled. The confidence. The entitlement. It was almost impressive. The apartment lease was entirely in my name. Always had been. Zach had never officially moved in. He stayed over constantly. Sure. But his driver's license listed his parents' address. His tax documents listed his parents' address. His bank statements listed his parents' address. Everything official pointed somewhere else. A choice he had made himself. A choice that was suddenly very inconvenient. Several minutes later, another text arrived. "This is insane." No, I thought. Thinking I'd stay forever was insane. Eventually, he left. Not quietly. Not gracefully. As he walked away, he made sure several neighbors heard him talking loudly about my breakdown. By then, I didn't care. Because something much more interesting happened that evening. My friend Mason called. Mason worked at the same fitness center where Emma's ex-boyfriend Derek occasionally trained. "You're not going to believe this. Try me." "Natalie. Emma has a boyfriend." I sat upright. "What?" "A serious one." I stared at the wall. Everything suddenly felt sharper. "How serious?" "They've been together almost a year." "What?" "Apparently he lives 2 hours away." I felt a strange mixture of anger and relief, not because Emma had a boyfriend, because it meant I wasn't crazy. For months, I had been told I was imagining things. Months. Mason continued. "I overheard something today." My stomach tightened. "What?" He was on the phone. Mason lowered his voice dramatically. "Yeah. She's basically single now. Her girlfriend's freaking out." I rolled my eyes. "Boyfriend?" "Sorry. Her boyfriend." He continued. "No. Baba. Emma and I are just friends. Stop worrying. I'll still be at your cousin's party this weekend." I closed my eyes. Every lie suddenly connected. Every missing weekend. Every defensive argument. Every accusation that I was insecure. Not because nothing was happening. Because too many things were happening. Mason wasn't finished. "I've got something else." "What?" "Screenshots." Now my pulse accelerated. What screenshots? A gym group chat. The notification arrived seconds later. I opened the images. The messages were 2 months old. My stomach dropped. One message from Derek read, "Guys, the woman I'm seeing is wild." Another, "Her girlfriend thinks we're spending Saturdays in book club." Several laughing emojis followed. Then, best part, she's actually believing it. For several seconds, I couldn't breathe. Not because I thought Emma and Zach were definitely sleeping together, because they were laughing at me, mocking me, turning my trust into a joke. That hurt more than cheating ever could. I forwarded every screenshot to Zach. Then I sent exactly one word, "Curious." 3 dots appeared instantly, then disappeared, then reappeared. Then my phone started ringing. Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times, 15. I ignored every call. By midnight, he had left 7 voicemails. I listened to none of them, because for the first time in months, I wasn't looking for explanations. I already had them. And deep down, I knew something else. If Zach was panicking this badly over screenshots, then whatever truth remained hidden was probably much worse. The next morning, while drinking coffee among half-packed boxes, my phone vibrated again. Unknown number. I answered. Natalie. A woman's voice. Older. Careful. I immediately recognized it. Karen. Zach's mother. And from the tension in her tone, I knew exactly what was coming. The intervention had begun. By the time Karen called, I already knew the conversation wasn't really about concern. It was about control. People who spend months ignoring your feelings suddenly become very interested in your well-being the moment you stop doing what they want. Natalie. Sweetheart. Karen began carefully. Can we talk? I looked around my apartment. Half the furniture was gone. Boxes lined the walls. My future was literally stacked around me in cardboard. Sure. I think you're making a mistake. There it was. Not hello. Not how are you. Not, are you okay? Straight to the mistake. Which one, I asked? The Singapore thing. I nearly laughed. The promotion. Everything. Leaving. Ending things with Zach. Making such a dramatic decision. Dramatic. Another interesting word. Apparently spending every weekend with an ex-girlfriend wasn't dramatic. Accepting a career opportunity was, Karen continued. Zach is devastated. I stared out the window. Funny. He seemed pretty comfortable at Emma's apartment. Silence. Just long enough to tell me she knew exactly where he'd gone. Natalie. No. Karen. Let's be honest. He told me if I couldn't handle him spending every weekend with his ex-girlfriend, maybe we shouldn't be together. He didn't mean it. Then, he shouldn't have said it. The conversation ended shortly after. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. The real show started on the morning of my flight. My departure was scheduled for 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Ironically, the same day, Zach had spent almost every Saturday for the last 3 months with Emma. I was finishing the last of my packing when someone knocked on the door, then knocked again, then again, hard. I already knew who it was. When I opened the door, I found 3 people standing there. Karen, Zach, and Zach's older sister, Rachel. The intervention committee. Wonderful. Karen immediately stepped forward. Natalie. Honey. We need to talk. I folded my arms. We've talked. No. Really talk. Rachel spoke next. You've got everyone worried. That was rich. Nobody had worried when I spent months feeling ignored. Nobody had worried when I cried myself to sleep, wondering why my boyfriend cared more about another woman than me. Now suddenly everyone was worried. About what exactly, I asked. Karen exchanged a glance with Zach. Then she said it. Your mental health. I blinked. My what? This behavior isn't like you. I stared at her. Then at Zach. Then back at her. You think accepting a promotion is evidence of a breakdown? Karen hesitated. Rachel jumped in. Moving across the world after a breakup isn't normal. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because the absurdity had become impossible to ignore. A 70% raise isn't normal either. Nobody answered. I continued. A director position at 31 isn't normal. Still, silence. A company-paid apartment isn't normal. Zach shifted uncomfortably. I pointed toward him. Neither is spending every weekend with your ex. Rachel frowned. Emma is just his friend. The words landed so perfectly that I almost admired them. Months later, I would still remember that sentence. Emma is just his friend. The unofficial slogan of every terrible decision that followed. Zach finally spoke. Natalie, please stop doing this. Doing what? Trying to make me the bad guy. I stared at him. The man genuinely believed this. The man who had emotionally checked out of our relationship. The man who had spent entire weekends prioritizing another woman. The man who had given me an ultimatum. He thought I was making him look bad. I suddenly felt tired. Not angry. Not sad. Just exhausted. Then Karen tried a different angle. What about the apartment? What about it? Zach's been living here. No. I smiled. He's been visiting here. Karen looked confused. Rachel looked confused. Even Zach looked confused. I continued. His mail goes to your house. I pointed at Karen. His driver's license uses your address. Another point. His tax forms use your address. Another. His voter registration uses your address. Another. Legally speaking, he's a guest. The silence that followed was magnificent. Karen slowly turned toward her son. Is that true? Zach looked away. That answer was enough. Karen's expression changed. Not much. Just enough. A tiny crack in her certainty. Then Rachel tried one final attack. You're really throwing away 3 years over one friendship? There it was again. One friendship. I walked to my kitchen counter, picked up my phone, opened the screenshots, then handed it to her. Rachel's confidence disappeared after the second image. Karen took the phone next. Her face turned pale. Then she reached the message. The one joking about book club. The one laughing at me. The one proving I wasn't crazy. What is this? She whispered. Nobody answered. What is this? Zach. His face flushed bright red. It's out of context. I nearly applauded. Of course. The famous context offense. The final refuge of guilty people everywhere. Karen looked horrified. Rachel looked embarrassed. Zach looked trapped. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No revenge. Just emptiness. Because, once trust dies, evidence doesn't bring it back. Eventually, they left. Not because they understood, because they had run out of arguments. The door closed behind them. And suddenly, the apartment was quiet again. A few hours later, I arrived at the airport. The terminal buzzed with travelers. Families. Business people. Couple. Everyone heading somewhere. I checked my luggage. Passed security. Found my gate. Then sat beside the window overlooking the runway. My phone vibrated non-stop. Message. Calls. Notifications. I ignored most of them. Until one caught my attention. A social media alert. I opened my account. Then uploaded a photo. My boarding gate. My suitcase. The airplane visible through the glass. The caption was simple. New chapter starts now. Singapore bound. Within minutes the comments exploded. Wait. What? You're actually leaving. Congratulations. Didn't Zach say you'd never go? Is this why he's been crying online? Good for you. The support surprised me. Apparently more people had noticed the situation than I realized. At 3:30. Just before boarding. My phone buzzed again. Zach. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Instead, I opened the message. What's your weekend look like? Can we talk? I stared at the screen. 3 months. 3 months of Saturdays with Emma. And now? Suddenly. He wanted my weekend. I smiled. Then lifted my phone. Snapped a selfie. Behind me. The departure board clearly displayed the Singapore flight. I thumped it. His reply arrived almost instantly. This isn't funny. Not trying to be a pause. Then, wait. Are you at the airport? Yes. You're actually leaving. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, Natalie. Please, we need to talk. I typed carefully. We had months to talk. You chose Emma. I never chose her. Every weekend for 3 months, says otherwise. Several seconds passed. Then, I'm coming to the airport. Too late. I'm already through security. Please, Natalie, please don't do this. For the first time in weeks. My chest tightened. Not because I wanted to stay. Because I remembered how much I used to love him. That was the tragedy. The person texting me wasn't a stranger. He was the man I had once imagined marrying. The man I had planned a future with. The man I had sacrificed opportunities for. But he wasn't that man anymore. Or maybe he never had been. Final boarding was announced. I stood, picked up my carry-on. Then sent one last message. Goodbye. Zach. I turned off my phone and boarded the plane. 10 hours later, when the aircraft descended through the clouds, and Singapore's skyline appeared beneath me. I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. Not because I had escaped Zach, because I had finally stopped abandoning myself. I didn't know it yet. But the biggest explosion of the entire story was still coming, because while I was settling into my new apartment, someone from Emma's life was about to contact me, and what he revealed would destroy every lie she and Zach had built together. Singapore felt like stepping into another version of my life. The city glowed at night. Glass towers reflected endless lights. The streets were cleaner than anywhere I had ever lived. The apartment my company provided overlooked the skyline. And every morning, I woke up wondering why I had spent so long convincing myself I wasn't supposed to be here. My new team was exceptional. Sharp, driven, creative. For the first time in years, I felt excited to go to work. I should have been focused entirely on my new beginning. Unfortunately, Zach wasn't finished turning our breakup into public entertainment. About a week after I arrived, he posted a lengthy social media rant. According to him, I had abandoned him without warning, refused to communicate, chosen money over love, destroyed a perfectly good relationship. The internet did not react the way he expected. The comments were brutal. Didn't she leave after you spent every weekend with your ex? Wait. Wasn't Emma in your stories every Saturday? You literally told her, maybe you shouldn't be together. Sounds like consequences. Someone even wrote, Team Natalie. Thousands of people liked it. The post disappeared a few hours later. Too late. Screenshots are forever. Then, the real bomb exploded. A message request appeared in my inbox. The sender's name was Derek Lawson, Emma's boyfriend, or, as I would soon learn, former boyfriend. His first message was surprisingly polite. Hi. I think we need to talk. My stomach tightened. I accepted the request. Immediately, another message appeared. Emma told me your relationship ended because you were obsessed with controlling Zach. Isai. Of course she did. Derek continued. I don't think that's true. Can you tell me what actually happened? For the next hour, I sent everything. The timeline, the screenshots, the lies, the messages, the fake book club, the weekend visits, all of it. Derek read everything silently. Then a final message arrived. Wow, just wow. A few minutes later, another one appeared. Thank you for telling me. Then nothing. 3 days passed. And then the internet caught fire. Derek broke up with Emma publicly. Not quietly. Not privately. Publicly. He uploaded screenshots, message, dates, receipts, everything. His caption simply read, Loyalty matters. The comment section exploded. Emma immediately tried damage control. Then things somehow became even worse. Because Derek included screenshots of conversations between Emma and Zach. Conversations neither of them expected anyone else to see. One message from Emma read, Natalie always overthinks everything. Another, she'll never actually leave. Then the one that made me laugh out loud, her career isn't going anywhere, anyway. That aged poorly. The fallout was spectacular. Friends chose sides. Mutual acquaintances disappeared. People started connecting dots. Questions became accusations. And suddenly, Zach and Emma were spending far more time defending themselves than attacking me. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Big mistake. Natalie. I immediately recognized Zach's voice. What do you want? This is all your fault. I nearly dropped my coffee. My fault? You sent Derek everything. He asked. You ruined Emma's relationship. I stared out my office window. The audacity was breathtaking. No. Zach. I spoke slowly. Emma ruined Emma's relationship. He became quiet. Then angry. Then desperate. The conversation ended with him accusing me of revenge. I blocked the number. He called from 2 more. Blocked. Another. Blocked. Another. Blocked. Eventually, he stopped. At least, temporarily. A month later, I thought the drama was finally over. I was wrong. Because one Tuesday afternoon, security from my office building called me. Ms. Brooks. Yes. There's a visitor asking for you. I frowned. I don't have any visitors scheduled. The guard hesitated. It's a man named Zach. I nearly choked on my coffee. What? He says he flew from the United States. Of course he did. Because, apparently, emotional boundaries were only suggestions. I walked to the lobby window, and looked outside. There he was, standing across the street, looking exhausted. For a moment, I genuinely wondered if I was hallucinating. Then he waved. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, unfortunately, he was still there. Security refused to let him inside. Thank God for corporate buildings. He waited outside for 4 hours. 4 hours. Eventually, I left for lunch. The moment he saw me, he hurried across the street. Natalie, what are you doing here? I needed to see you. You flew across the world for that. Yes. I stared at him. The same man who couldn't sacrifice a Saturday afternoon for our relationship had apparently found the energy to travel halfway around the planet. Interesting. Against my better judgment, I agreed to one conversation. We met at a crowded cafe near my office. Public, bright, safe. The moment he sat down, I noticed how different he looked. Tired, disheveled, defeated. Gone was the confidence he'd carried during our relationship. Gone was the certainty that I'd always stay. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he finally said it. I messed up. I leaned back. Which part? His eyes lowered. All of it. A strange sadness washed over me. Months earlier, I would have given anything to hear those words. Now they felt hollow. I thought I could have both. There it was. The truth. Finally. Not Emma. Not friendship. Not misunderstandings. Not insecurity. Greed. He wanted both. Me and her. Security and excitement. Commitment and attention. Everything. Without consequences. I thought you'd always stay. He admitted. The honesty hit harder than any lie. Because I believed him. He genuinely thought I would never leave. He thought my love was permanent, no matter how he behaved. He thought I would keep choosing him. Forever. He wiped his eyes. I've changed. People always say that, especially when losing something becomes real. I blocked Emma. Good for you. I started therapy. Good. I know what I did. Finally, for a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he reached across the table. I moved my hand away. His face crumpled. And for the first time, I felt absolutely certain there was no future here. Not because I hated him, because I no longer trusted him. Without trust, love becomes memory. Nothing more. Then he tried one last thing. Natalie. I looked at him. I'm pregnant. The words were so absurd that I actually laughed. Several people nearby turned toward us. His face immediately collapsed. Because he realized what he had said. Because he realized how ridiculous it sounded. Because he realized he had become so desperate that he wasn't even thinking clearly. A few seconds later, he buried his face in his hands. I'm sorry. I shook my head. We haven't even been together in months. I know. You just wanted me to care. Tears filled his eyes. I spoke softly. I cared for 3 years. Zach. That sentence ended everything. He flew home the next day. I never saw him again. At least not in person. 2 weeks later, Tara informed me that Zach was dating his yoga instructor. Apparently, she was his soulmate. Apparently, healing had brought them together. Apparently, some people move on at record speed. I wished them luck. Mostly because it wasn't my problem anymore. Months passed. My career flourished. My confidence returned. My life expanded. Then karma arrived. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just steadily. The woman Zach chose over our relationship ended up owing years of unpaid taxes. After investigators discovered she had falsely claimed residency information, the penalties were enormous. Her parents had to bail her out. She moved back home. Zach's reputation followed him too. Mutual friends knew what happened. Industry contacts knew. The story traveled. People remembered. Funny how that works. Meanwhile, I met someone. His name was Caleb Foster. Australian. Designer. Funny. Kind. Emotionally available. A man who never made me compete for his attention. The first time I told him the ridiculous story of Zach and Emma's fake book club, he laughed so hard, he nearly spilled his drink. Then he asked a simple question. Why didn't you take Singapore the first time? I stared at him. Because I didn't have a good answer anymore. 6 months after arriving, my company offered me a permanent leadership position. I accepted immediately. No hesitation. No sacrifice. No apology. The version of me who once turned down her dream opportunity for someone else's comfort felt like a stranger. Sometimes I still hear updates through mutual friends. Apparently Zach talks about growth, about lessons, about mistakes. Maybe he means it. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, it isn't my concern. What matters is this. The moment he said, "If you can't handle me spending weekends with my ex, maybe we're not right for each other." He expected me to fight. He expected me to bend. He expected me to stay. Instead, I listened. And that decision changed my life. Today I'm earning nearly twice what I made before. Living in one of the most incredible cities in the world, building a future with someone who values me. And every now and then, when Caleb and I plan another trip somewhere beautiful, I remember the woman sitting alone in that apartment, wondering whether she was asking for too much. She wasn't. She was simply asking the wrong person,